What's up, everyone? Welcome to Men vs. Movies. I would say this is Men vs. Movies Talk,
right?
Which is the name of our podcast, but this is kind of different.
This is different.
If you remember last year, we said that we were going to be changing up the way we do our talk show.
Yes.
So if you aren't familiar with our previous format, basically what we do is we do a rundown of the movie news, you give some opinions, and maybe talk about trailers and stuff like that. Basically, your typical movie news show.
Right.
That's not the case anymore.
Well, it's different, Griffin.
It's very different because this time in our new format for the show, we're going to be doing more of like a case study type thing. So we're going to be taking one topic. We're going to be diving deep into it. We're going to be digging up the dirty details, figuring out what's going on with this and giving, our opinions on the topic as well. So this week, it just so happened, we were thinking about, what the hell are we going to do this week? There's not really a movie coming out that we can relate it to. I mean, we could do something on Rings. No, I mean, we could do something on how basically 2017 is secretly 2003 reincarnated.
Yes.
That is still up. That is still a topic that we might do.
Personal pet theory.
Yeah. Oh, that was, if only you could be in on that discussion that we had. But, something happened on Sunday. A little piece of news that we'll dive into later on. And basically, we were just like, you know what? This is the way we got to do it. We're going to talk about it. Yeah. So the theme for today's show is what's the deal with the DC Cinematic Universe, DC Extended Universe, whatever the hell you want to call it, the DC movies. What the hell is going on over there? Because there's a lot going on over there.
There's a lot going on, yes.
And there's a lot that, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's like rumors, what... So we're going to talk about that. That's going to basically be the topic for today's show. And hopefully you like this new format because we're going to try something new. It's a little bit more interesting for us to talk about though, instead of just strictly going through the movie news type thing. So
absolutely.
With that, also we don't have a title for the show yet. So that'll be coming soon. We'll be thinking about that. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. So, you ready?
I am ready.
All right, so on Sunday, unfortunately, it was announced that Ben Affleck was going to be departing the Batman as the director. So I'll read to you his official statement, which if you're familiar with this story, which I'm sure 95% of you are, then you've heard this.
Right. If you click this video, you've probably...
Oh, yeah, easily. I mean, you've probably heard this statement before. So regardless, I'm just going to read it. So he says... There are certain characters who hold a special place in the hearts of millions. Performing this role demands focus, passion, and the very best performance I can give. It has become clear that I cannot do both jobs to the level they require. Together with the studio, I have decided to find a partner and a director who will collaborate with me on this massive film. I'm still in this, for now, and we are making it, but we are currently looking for a director. I remain extremely committed to this project and look forward to bringing this to life for fans around the world. Whoa. So that is the quote from Ben Affleck as he departs the Batman film. It's a good statement. I mean, it's basically what we expected. They're not going to be like, working with Warner Brothers is really shitty. I hate how involved they are in the filmmaking process. I never want to work with them again. No, that's not going to happen. Nor do I think that's really the case here.
Right, yeah.
But I do think that there is some turmoil going on here over at Warner Brothers in DC. As we've seen by some of the stuff we're going to talk about later, this isn't the first time something like this has happened.
No, it's not. Yeah.
And really, I think if this had been the first instance of something kind of going wrong in the DCEU, if this had been the first time, I think people would be a little bit less apprehensive of what's going to happen. But the way I look at this is basically the nail in the coffin. Oh, wow. Not necessarily the coffin of the cinematic universe,
Big
but
talk.
for the people that have faith in what Warner Brothers and DC is doing. Because I don't think Warner Brothers as a whole is a bad studio because they're very reputable. They're usually the second biggest studio that you think of, maybe aside from Disney, when you think of Hollywood. And especially when you think of like classic Hollywood in general.
Yeah, I would say even more than Disney. That's like,
I agree with you.
The classic movie studio.
Yeah, you think of Warner Brothers when you think of just movies, and they have a great reputation. And so far I have had no problem with them. But this division of Warner Brothers with DC, I just don't feel like they have a game plan. And so kind of moving into what we're going to talk about next, why do you think Ben Affleck left the project? Because there's been a lot of people saying, oh, well, we saw this coming. And yeah, to some extent we did from his like wishy-washiness of previous interviews and stuff like that, but then he goes on Kimmel and he's like, hey, I'm still directing The Batman. So it's kind of like, was he lying there? Was he trying to, cover up for the fact that this announcement's going to come and they wanted some positive press?
If he had gone on Kimmel though and just dropped that bomb in the middle of an interview, but I feel like that would have been tactless.
Right. But I don't
see why he didn't do that.
But I don't think he had to answer that per se. I mean, he could have. He's familiar with like press conferences. I mean,
but a non-answer for a project he's already confirmed for, a non-answer would be an answer.
Right.
If he said, "I refuse to answer this question about directing the Batman movie that I've already signed on to direct," would be you're not directing it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. I mean, and there could be a number of reasons why he left the project. I have my reasons, but I'm going to let you start off with why you think Ben Affleck left the project.
I think Ben Affleck left the project. I don't think he lied per se in his statement. I just don't think his statement tells the full truth.
No, not at all.
I think that's definitely a component. I think, first of all, Batman had Batman. So I just call him Batman.
I mean, he basically is.
Ben Affleck has very visibly been affected by the rumor mill and the critical and fan reception to this movie from the very beginning, from when he very first announced he was going to be Batman.
That's true.
It was fuck Ben Affleck, blah, 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 blah. Then he finally does the movie, and people shit on the movie. They like him, but they shit on the movie.
Right.
And it spawned an entire meme.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. Because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain
of
Dude, I still don't get tired of that meme. It is so funny. The sad Affleck. Yeah. I mean, come on, it's pretty funny.
It's pretty funny, but it's such a prominent thing that we just sort of accept that this has affected Ben Affleck, and then Ben Affleck goes and does his own personal project, and he is doing the exact same thing he'd be doing with Batman, and it doesn't get met with the greatest critical reception. This is his first directorial movie,
right?
That he has not received a warm reception for.
Yeah, that's true.
So I feel like Ben Affleck. I'm actually not doing this on purpose. This is going to be a common
thing. I'm telling you,
legitimately not doing this on purpose. Yeah. But Ben Affleck, with those two things coupled, said, you know what? If I can handle Live by Night not being well received. But this sort of proves, this illustrates to me personally that I am fallible as a director, which I think he realized, but it's sort of like, it was a wake-up call where it's like, shit, if this happens with the Batman movie I'm making, I will be crucified. First of all, his reputation among the fans, gone. His reputation with the studio for bombing a Batman movie, gone, which means he won't get to make his own personal movies anymore. He's already on thin ice for making a less than critically or financially successful.
Come on.
No, I
don't know if that's. I think that might be a little too extreme.
I don't know if that's extreme. I think if Ben Affleck does not produce a financially and critically acceptable movie, his career with Warner Brothers, his solo career with Warner Brothers, is done. It's done. I don't think Warner Brothers is going to say, you fucked up Batman. We put Batman in movies to make money.
Right.
We put him in movies he doesn't belong in to make money. He makes money on his own. If this movie does not make money, Ben Affleck's entire career at Warner Brothers is riding on that.
Right. Well,
I feel like that's a massive burden, and I think that Live by Night, coupled with the fact that he does have
So you think part of the reason is because of the failure of Live by Night?
Not just the failure. I think maybe his experience making Live by Night, coupled with the failure, coupled with the fact that he's been facing backlash for this Batman role the entire time he's had it.
But I think the backlash regarding him playing Batman is gone, because he is.
No, absolutely. It's gone, but I think there's intense scrutiny now. He even mentioned at one point, he said all being asked questions about Batman was a pain in the ass for him.
Right.
I think he doesn't want that much responsibility over this thing. He doesn't want to be the sole reason this movie fails or succeeds. And I understand that, because not only is that a burden for him as a person, emotionally and like anxiety wise.
Yeah.
But I do think if he failed to produce on a Batman movie, which is a guaranteed shoe-in moneymaker, I feel like Warner Brothers is going to say, you know what, we're not going to give you as long of a leash as we've given you this whole time.
Right.
We're not going to let you make your little individual movies between these Batman movies. You make the Batman movies, and if they're successful, then we'll give you what I mean? I feel like he has a good thing going with Warner Brothers right now, and I think he's starting to realize maybe this Batman thing isn't worth gambling that on, especially after what happened with Live by Night. I think this is something that has been a concern for him, and he was trepidatious about writing it as well. Remember that he was saying if it doesn't end up turning out the way I want it to turn out in the writing process, I'll just defer to someone else.
Right.
He said this in the past.
I know. Which he's like if the script isn't where I want it to be, I'm not going to direct it. And it's like, well, you're writing the script, so you should make sure that it's where it should.
I mean, maybe he feels like that's too much.
Well, I'm sorry, he's co-writing it with Jeff Johns.
Right, and there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Maybe I don't know.
See, that's where I'm thinking it is.
But I don't think it has to do with the studio necessarily intervening. He knows how to work with Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers knows how to work with him.
True.
They've worked together pretty well. But I think in terms of too many, I shouldn't say too many cooks in the kitchen. That's not what I meant to say. I meant to say too many fingers in too many pies.
Another
Ben
food
Affleck's
reference.
fingers.
We want another food reference.
Yes, we did. I meant to make a food reference before, and that's why I mixed it up.
Yeah.
But
so you think
there are too many cooks in the kitchen
yeah,
in some respects. But I think Ben Affleck stretched himself too thin, and Live by Night was something of a wake-up call. It is suspicious that this came out right after Live by Night comes out and gets dealt a bad hand. I think it is a little suspicious that now suddenly Batman... Fuck me, dead. That Ben Affleck is stepping down from the movie. I think that is suspicious timing, and I think that has something to do with it. Not everything, but I think that's a major contributing factor. 'Cause I mean, who wants to be the guy responsible for following up Nolan's Batman movies and and also playing the role and also writing it? There's no one else to blame. He would be solely to blame if that movie sucks.
You're right. He would be the main person to blame. I mean, there's still a chance for him to be the person to blame, even if the movie does suck with the new director.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't think Warner Brothers will blame him if the movie is poorly directed, if he's not directing it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So here's my thing. Well, I see where you're coming from, as I've had some time to kind of think on the decision and stuff like that, I can see that.
Yeah.
I think that it is probable that he's just worn out from doing The Accountant, BVS, Justice League.
And he has been busy. Yeah, you're right.
Live by Night. One of which he was.
Did you say Justice League?
Yeah, I did say Justice League. One of which he was the director, screenwriter, and star of, aka Live by Night. So I can see that. I'm sure he's a little worn out.
Yeah.
But let's think about this.
He's doing that TV show now.
He's in a TV show.
He's doing a TV show. He's producing a TV show with Matt Damon.
Oh, what, Project Greenlight?
No, a different one.
Really?
I thought. Yeah, I remember.
I don't know about that.
Seeing that
so basically, he's a busy guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he might be biting off more than he can chew. Entirely possible. I don't think that's the case because I think Batman is such an important thing for him that the fact that he has the opportunity, that he had the opportunity to direct that, it was too good of an opportunity for him to pass up, and I don't see why he would willingly want to step down from making that movie. So I think that there was some issues going on there with Warner Brothers. I think there were too many cooks in the kitchen, and I think that it's possible, I'm not saying it's true, but I think it's possible that him and Jeff Johns were not on the same page and they were maybe not getting the story where it needs to be. I really do.
Interesting.
And so, as a result...
then wouldn't he have stepped down as writer?
Well, that's
wouldn't
what
he
I'm
have... Because
if
he... Well, this is my thing. If he had a problem with the script, right? Or if he had a problem with the producers, why give up the authority he has as director and just sort of go along with the ride as the actor? You know what I mean?
Right.
He's abdicating his power when really, if he had a problem with the script, as director, he can request a new screenwriter.
Right.
As director, he can push back against the studio better than an actor has a chance of pushing back against the studio.
That's true. That's true. But I think part of
he's giving up his power of the editing, which is where Warner Bros. Really has been stepping in.
That's true.
Because now he's no longer in the editing room anymore.
Right.
So
and that's
I feel like if that was the case, he wouldn't have given up his power. He would have fortified his power. I don't know. This is my opinion.
No, and I agree with you. I myself, the one was curious why he didn't give up writing it instead of directing it, because as evident by Live by Night, which was solely written by him, he's a much better director than he is writer. He's a great writer. I think if Live by Night had a few more drafts, it would have been a better film. But if you've seen in the past,
and he did stretch himself thin when making that movie.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, if you've seen in the past, when he's written, directed, and starred in his films, the movies where he has written with groups of people have been the better films. Just, I think, because he does better collaboratively in the writing process. And then he's a top-notch director. I almost think he's a better director than he is star in his movies. So, like, I really wonder why he would step down as director as opposed to screenwriter. So that was something that was kind of weird for me. But regardless, he stepped down as director, so that doesn't matter. The reason why I say he might not be on the same level as John's is because John's the head of this DC cinematic universe. There has to be some butting heads there as far as like where to go with the film. And the other thing to this is I think maybe Affleck knows that he's more valuable as a director. And so maybe because his working relationship as far as the DC cinematic universe is going, or the Batman is going right now, I think maybe because that there's been some too much interference, he's like, you know what? Fine. You deal with this. You find a director, or I'll work with you to find a director. I'm still going to star in the movie and everything because, I mean, he's contractually obligated to.
Right.
But he's going to step down as director because he doesn't want to like deal with that anymore because Warner Brothers is kind of messing around a little too much. And they have a tendency to do that in the past with films like Suicide Squad. Not so much BV. Well, a little bit with BVS, but that was more
editing.
That was more editing.
Yeah, and even with Suicide Squad, I think that was editing because.
But they gave Ayer 6 weeks to write a script. Here's the other thing. I also think that they're rushing him. I think that they're pushing him too much to push this movie out, which I think is another reason why he may have stepped down. Which that makes sense too. But that's also a result of Warner Brothers, trying to do stuff. I think what they need to do is they really need to take their time with this stuff. Right. Make sure that it's the best it can be, because it's evident by films like Suicide Squad, to some extent BVS, that they need to spend more time perfecting these films.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, but I don't think it would be fair to lob that entirely on the studio. I think, there is some fair share of blame to go around at Warner Brothers. Trust me.
Right, for sure.
Especially for the editing stuff. That stuff I think is unforgivable. But in the context of filmmaking.
Right.
They didn't commit a war crime or something. But
they may as well have.
But so I think that stuff is unacceptable. But when it comes to making sure a movie comes out on time, that's what a studio does. A studio is investing a lot of money into this, and I think it would be naive to say let the artists do what they want. And I'm a big fan of letting artists do what they want, but it is a franchise. It is a big investment for them.
Right.
And you can't just give everyone all the time they want.
Well, but
the reason David Ayer was rushed on the script is because David Ayer's previous scripts probably weren't very good, and he had to rewrite them. You know,
he was only given 6 weeks to write Suicide Squad.
Right, but that's the story we've heard from David Ayer. Like why?
So you think he's going to fabricate saying that
he was on the film for like ages before that, right? Was he not?
I don't know. No, he was basically announced as director, and he's like, "Hey, okay, 6 weeks to write the script, and then we're going to go into production."
Right, but I don't know. I don't know if that's. 100%.
I don't know the full facts regarding that.
That's 100%.
Right.
I feel like he pitched Suicide Squad to them.
I'm not familiar with that.
I don't think DC said we're making a Suicide Squad movie. Get David Ayer. I think David Ayer said I want to make a Suicide Squad movie. Can you work me in? And he says, yeah, we'll fit you in here. And then
so you think it was more of a case of
I think David Ayer was
Ayer
was unprepared. David Ayer made the film he wanted to make, and then later on made a comment about how he would have fixed it. But I think he's consistently blamed himself for what the movie turned out to be.
Right.
And I don't think that's insincere. I think he's mentioned when the studio has intervened. He said there are different cuts. Yeah. But I don't think in his case, and maybe this is emblematic of the rest of the universe, maybe not, but you never know. I think he didn't do what he was supposed to do. He pitched a movie that he didn't fully have formed. And then when the studio said, you need to be finished with this, he didn't really give himself enough time. That's what I think, because I don't know why I can't imagine why Warner Brothers' first instinct would be to make a Suicide Squad movie unless someone came to them with an idea first. And it feels like it was David Ayer's baby that he brought to them and said, "Hey, let me do this. I can do this." And
I mean, I can't comment on that because I don't know how that whole thing went down. But I mean, like if that is how it went down, then yeah, I can see that. But still, I mean, why wouldn't Warner Brothers be like, this is a great idea. Let's spend some more time developing this to make sure it's the best it can be instead of trying to
probably because David Ayer said he was fine with it. I mean, I
don't think he would be fine with it. Having written one draft of the script in like 6 weeks, and he's like, all right, this is what we're filming.
I don't know. I don't think he would have a problem with that. I don't think he's used to making big budget movies like this on that scale, and so I think maybe that was acceptable. And he's more used to just sort of working with a temp script and sort of developing it as he goes. Whereas a studio film, the studio isn't too keen when you do that. I'll get to that.
We can move on to that later. But going back to Affleck, I mean, I'm sure it's a combination of a bunch of different things. Yeah. Are you? I guess, how are you receiving this news? Because there's been a lot of different ways people have received it. People are like, this is it. I've lost all faith in DC. I think that's a little extreme. I am a little less certain in DC and Warner Brothers now, having heard this. Yeah. But I don't think it's necessarily the end of the world. But I don't, some people are just kind of like, oh, all right, yeah, cool. I think this is a good thing. Yeah. I'm not quite there either because I think a Ben Affleck directed Batman film could have been incredible. I mean, this is the guy who wrote, directed, and starred in a Best Picture winner. He has an Oscar to prove for it. So that's another reason why I can't understand why this is such an issue for him. He has starred in, directed, and written films in the past. The last one he did it, aside from Live by Night, won Best Picture. So there has to be more to this than it's just I can't do it. Well, you've done it before.
I don't think it's not that I don't think he can't do it. I think he doesn't want to be responsible. I honestly think that he just doesn't want.
So he doesn't want the responsibility.
He doesn't want to be responsible. 100% responsible.
Then why did he agree to do it in the first place?
Probably because he was coming off of an Oscar nomination. He was coming off of like I can do this, and then suddenly it's like Live by Night doesn't do so well, and something like, oh shit!
See,
it's a realization. I think there's a reason it came. This announcement came after Live by Night, not before. I think if Live by Night had been a critical and financial success on the level of Argo or The Town or anything like that, I don't think he would have dropped the movie. I think he would have been in.
Maybe
the studio would have been saying you need to stick around, and.
But here's the other thing. Do you think this is another case of maybe Warner Brothers being a little too reactive to the bad press of Live by Night?
I don't think Ben Affleck would have.
So you think this was solely his decision?
I don't think it was solely his decision, but I don't think Warner Brothers was stopping him.
So you think it stemmed from him?
I think it was Ben Affleck's idea, and Warner Brothers said, "Okay, but." They weren't rushing to stop him. Whereas I think with Live by Night, if he had come to that realization after Live by Night had been a massive success, Warner Brothers would be like, "You need to stick around. You have a perfect track record. We need you to be the director of this film." Yeah. Whereas at this point, it's sort of like Warner Brothers is being a bit reactive in not stopping him, but I don't think because they are looking at his most recent example and going like, "Okay, yeah, we're not too interested right now," but they are still like. Movie making people, they are producers and then they are like businessmen. But at the same time, it is their business to know when a creative person is saying, "I will not give you the best product if I am directing, writing, producing, because I'm going to be too worried about this. Right. You know what I mean? I'm going to be too concerned about this ruining my career, and I'm going to overthink it, and I'm going to make a mess of this." And
see, but that's another reason why I think that maybe had Warner Brothers not been pushing him to push the Batman out by 2018, that this maybe wouldn't have been a problem. I think that what they should have done is push the Batman back until they had something that they were completely 100% happy with. Because let's face it, if the Batman is not a good movie, they're fucked. They're literally fucked because the last time we got a Batman movie, it was Nolan and people loved it. Regardless of what you think of The Dark Knight Rises, it's a great movie. I don't really care if you hate it. It's a great movie. But
it's a great movie.
Just shut up.
Get out of my face.
But it's like so you have that to live up to. Yes. Granted, they're their own thing. They're not even related, so it technically doesn't matter.
It's a high benchmark. The Batman movies have always been. Except for
we don't want a Joel Schumacher movie. Let's face it.
They have reached a level of prestige where it's sort of like the Dark Knight is the only superhero movie worth even considering for an Oscar. You know what I mean?
I completely agree.
So I think that is such a massive legacy. Nolan has done
So
such
why?
such a service to the character
Yes.
in the public consciousness that it's almost and plus like, going back to the first Tim Burton movie, that was a massive deal. It was a massive
It was great.
cultural,
Yeah.
like pop culture phenomenon.
Yeah.
Batman has such a high prestige place in cinema that there's a lot riding on this movie, whether or not it was part of a cinematic universe or not.
Right.
And
So,
I'll
let you finish that.
I just think, just reiterating what I've already said, Ben Affleck was concerned that this was A, going to ruin his career, B, he wasn't going to be able to do the job probably because of like the intense stress. And he is doing a lot more lately than he has ever been doing. Like, Argo sort of pinpoints the point where his career really took off again.
Yeah.
And so, because he was making good stuff before that, but it's like Argo was like propelled him into that consciousness of like, Ben Affleck's a great director. Ben Affleck's a good actor.
And while I completely understand that, my response to that would be like, well, then Warner Brothers needs to give them more time, and they need to give the project more time instead of rushing it. So that's why I think there's a bigger.
Maybe Ben Affleck, even if he had more time, he doesn't want to be involved.
Maybe. I mean, this is all speculation.
So I don't know why. I don't know why he'd give up power if he was worried about the. Like you said, he really loves the character.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't think he would just sit back and say, "Let this train wreck happen with me as the star."
No, yeah,
maybe
you
know what I mean. Like,
I mean,
his name's still on it. It's not like
you're right. You're right. I mean,
completely.
he's producing it too.
Right,
he's
producing
so
and
he's
starring
still
in
heavily
it, so
involved.
He's the face of the film still. It's just I don't know.
I can see some of that, but I think that, and this is going to move into our next section here. I think this kind of like sparks a conversation about what's kind of been going on with the DCEU as a whole. This is I wouldn't say this is an isolated incident. This is kind of a pattern, and it's at least from my perspective, it's showing that the DC cinematic universe does not have their shit together. They don't have a set game plan for this universe, and they need to start getting things together. So whatever you think happened with Ben Affleck here with the Batman thing, it's not good. It's not good publicity for Warner Brothers
absolutely not, no.
and DC. So let's move into the DCEU as a whole. So basically what's going to happen now is we're going to go through kind of like a timeline of Warner Brothers and DC announcements that have come out.
Controversial ones.
Yeah, the controversial ones that have kind of like come out. And we're not saying whether they're good or bad. They're just announcements, and we're both going to make points on opposite side of this. I think it's a little sporadic, and a lot of this is kind of worrisome. Yeah. You, on the other hand, feel a little bit different.
I'm not too concerned. Yeah, you'll see what I mean.
We'll get into this.
You'll see.
So let's go through this timeline, and we're going through this timeline grouped by heroes instead of chronological. So we're going to start off with Wonder Woman. I think this is one that has the least controversy around it, other than the fact that Michelle McLaren, she signed on to direct, but then she left due to creative differences in April of 2015. Mm-hmm. This is a pattern we're going to see here, creative differences. But it doesn't matter anymore because Patty Jenkins is directing. The movie is set to come out in June of this year. So other than a few rumors of maybe Wonder Woman not being so great
from
just
one rumor.
Leaked insiders, I haven't heard anything. I'm really looking forward to this film. Yeah. And I think this might be a crucial turning point for Marvel. Yeah. I think it'll...
DC, you mean?
Or I'm sorry. God. Crucify me now. But
he was reading it. He was reading the check that he got from.
You're right.
Disney,
under here, this bag of money
from Marvel.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I think
I'll make sure he doesn't read checks while he's doing the videos anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think even more so than Justice League, Wonder Woman is incredibly important, and I think it actually has a chance of being better than Justice League, just because it's more character development. It's not just a big action spectacle and stuff like that. So
character driven, hopefully,
Yes, exactly. So that's the first thing here. Not a big deal, but it's still something to know. So moving on to The Flash. This is where the shit hits the fan. This film can't seem to get off the ground.
It's just The Flash, really, that has been like the lightning rod of drama.
Lightning rod,
in the DC universe.
Right,
so.
a little bit. So basically, this is how this whole thing started. Phil Lord, Chris Miller, they're brought on to write a treatment, heavily rumored that they were going to be brought on to direct the film in April 2015. This happened in April 2015 as well. Right. A lot of stuff happened.
2 years ago now.
Yeah. But as you well know, they left the project and they're now in production on the Han Solo film. Okay, no big deal. That stuff happens. If you have the opportunity to do Flash or Star Wars, you choose Star Wars.
Right,
let's
exactly,
face it. Yeah. So the next person we got
if
here.
It's an unnecessary movie in the Star Wars canon.
That's another discussion, yes. Next person they brought on board, Seth Graham-Smith. So he wrote the highly critically acclaimed phenomenon, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
The book.
You
and
probably
the film.
remember it, yes.
Yeah.
He was brought on board to write the script from the Lord and Miller treatment,
Yep.
and then he was going to direct it as well. Well, eventually, Smith departed the project in April of 2016 due to, guess what? Creative differences.
Who really cares what the writer of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter thought was a creative difference? you
Right.
know?
Whatever their creative differences were, I'm not too upset about that, but it is kind of turning into a trend for DC here. So we move on to the next director that they got, who was hired shortly after Smith left. So we have dope director, I hope I'm saying this right, Rick Famuyiwa. Famuyiwa, I think I got that right. He joined the project, but he left in October of last year due to, guess what? Creative differences.
See, that's the most shocking one, I think, so far. I think because he seemed really on board with
He
this.
did
And he really,
at first,
and
yeah.
he brought on the girl from Dope. I forget her name.
Yes, yeah, I remember.
And Clemens or something.
I don't remember her
I don't
name,
know.
but I know who you're talking
and
about.
he he seemed like he really got along with Ezra Miller.
Yeah.
And I think like they had a good dynamic going, and so I was really shocked. He was like in London visiting them on the Justice League set.
Right,
I
right.
was really shocked to see he left. Of all of them so far, I think that's the most
Right.
concerning.
So this is and I'm with you. This is a big spark here, because this is where I think that we're starting to realize that maybe some stuff is not really going so well in the DCEU. It seems that a lot of directors
I think it's just
are having a lot of creative differences with Warner Brothers, and I think part of the reason is, and I'll get to this later, is because Warner Brothers, I don't think they entirely know what they want out of some of their stuff.
I think it's something different, but you go first.
I mean that's fine. We're continuing with the stories, but
I think there's something else going on.
okay, well that's fine. So obviously, okay, Rick Famuyiwa, he left the project. So then the most recent news that we have regarding The Flash, it happened actually in January of this year.
Yep.
So Warner Brothers and DC announced that The Flash would be getting a page 1 rewrite, and the project has yet to find another director. That is huge. A page 1 rewrite. This movie was supposed to be like on the roll. It was supposed to have the ball rolling. We were supposed to have a director. It was supposed to go into production somewhat soon. We had our shit together. Nope.
Well,
We're going to start from square one again.
If you had so much drama going on beforehand, that is the best possible news, I think. I think it's
You're
better
right,
than saying we kept the original script that has been treated by Chris Lord,
Phil Lord,
Phil
Chris
Lord
Miller.
and Chris Miller, and was tweaked by Abraham Lincoln dude, and then
you know,
tweaked again for Rick. Like, I feel like better than just forcing that horrible Frankenstein of a monster onto another director. I think it's better that they just said, you know what, rewrite it again, bring someone in, just pretend we start this movie all over again.
You're right, and to some extent, I agree with you. But it is concerning that they have not been able to get their shit together regarding this film. I mean, this is the film industry. It's a business. These people that were getting to do this should be, we should be producing quality stuff here. We shouldn't have to keep restarting all over again, especially if they're trying to create a cinematic universe. Now, I know I just spoke on the fact that, give Ben Affleck time and do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And while I still agree with that, I think that stuff like this is just like, come on, guys, you got to be kidding me with this. You've had like 4 people like touch this thing, and you haven't been able to come up with something.
I think that's almost a testament, though, to the fact that they are willing to give people more time. I think the fact that they pushed back Batman vs Superman for time, they have delayed The Flash because they haven't got something.
Well, they don't have anything. That's why they
exactly.
The Flash.
But they had something. They threw it away because it wasn't very good, obviously. But I think
maybe it was, and they just didn't like it.
Maybe you never know. But obviously, Rick didn't like it. But I'm not gonna bother with his name. But Famuyiwa, there it is.
There you go.
I was gonna say Iwo Jima, but
yeah.
But, anyway, so I think that that almost is a counterpoint to they shouldn't have rushed David Ayer and they shouldn't have rushed Ben Affleck. I think if David Ayer had come out and said, "Hey, I'm really unhappy with this script, not very good,"
yeah, that's
then
true.
I feel like Warner Brothers would have said, "Okay, we'll push it back," because they have done that with Batman vs Superman and they're doing this with The Flash. And they would have done a page 1 rewrite. But I feel like...
Well, I also think...
Or they learned their lesson from Suicide Squad and said,
think
we're not gonna force a bad script onto someone. Either way, I think that's a good thing. I don't see that as a bad thing. I see that as progress.
I think it's good and bad. It's good in the same way that you're saying. It's like, all right, they're realizing that they don't have anything here, and it's just going to be a disaster if they try and make this into a film. But at the same time, why have they not been able to get their shit together?
I don't know.
That's where I'm looking at. I'm like, this is serious red flags coming out here that something is not working. The heads at Warner Brothers are not able to convey their vision to the directors. I think that's the bigger problem.
The treatment was written before Jeff Johns came on board as like the the head of the creative department for that. And he was head of DC, but he wasn't head of the film division. I think, in just knowing Jeff Johns as a writer and as a content producer, he's very like Green Lantern and The Flash are like his brain children. He probably wasn't very happy with what had been already in place and been rewritten like 2 times by the time he came on board. He came on board after the Rick did, didn't he? I think he did.
Yeah, he may have.
So that means this script has already been through 3 or so rewrites or whatever until by the time he got on board. And then this Rick guy's like, I want to make it, allegedly he wanted to make it a little more dark. And so he leaves for those differences because Jeff Johns has very particular views on The Flash. Now he's a little like, okay, I don't really like this script. Doesn't really match my vision of The Flash. Let's just throw it away.
Well,
and instead of like finding another director, let's just throw it away. I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
I don't really have any.
I
don't have any investment in this script, and I have a lot of investment in this character, and I want to get it right. I honestly, the fact that they've gone through managerial shakeup at Warner Brothers in the interim makes this make more sense to me. It makes me think that this is just Jeff Johns cleaning house a little bit.
It might be,
and I don't mind that because again, you have to mind that the Michelle McLaren thing before Jeff Johns.
That was that is true. A lot of this stuff did happen before Jeff Johns, but once again, it's just kind of like I think it's the trend that's going on here, which is leading a lot of people to believe this is not good. They don't have their shit together.
Fair enough, yeah.
And maybe with this page 1 rewrite, like you were mentioning, because Jeff Johns is in charge now, I think maybe like we'll get something good out of it. I just think that they need to find a director and they need to put out a quality script.
Absolutely, yeah.
we just need to hear good news regarding The Flash because so far we have yet to hear good news. So let's move on to the next hero thing here. And this actually really isn't bad news. It's just kind of like the announcements just seem kind of sporadic and random.
Right.
So this is regarding the Green Lantern Corps. So it was announced in January, obviously, of 2017. Warner Brothers and DC announced that it was announced that The Flash, that a Green Lantern Corps movie, it was in development. It was being penned by the Dark Knight writer David S. Goyer and Justin Rhodes, who is writing Guillermo del Toro's next film, The Fantastic Voyage. And the movie is being pitched as a Lethal Weapon in space, kind of like a buddy cop film. Pretty good news, I have to say.
It's going to be an origin as well, apparently. Like it probably won't be Hal Jordan's origin. It'll be Jon Stewart's origin.
There's going to be multiple lanterns
he'll be the rookie who's like training under Hal Jordan, but Hal Jordan's not exactly a seasoned rogue. I think it's an interesting dynamic actually because you'd expect John. This is a complete tangent, but you'd expect
Jon Stewart. Quick, come on.
You'd expect Jon Stewart's character to be like the sort of like the tough and gruff experienced guy, but he's the rookie, even though he's all like no fun or business. And Hal's the experienced guy, but he's a complete like sort of I don't know.
Right, yeah. I get what you're saying.
I think that's an interesting spin, if you will, on that lethal weapon formula. But anyway.
No, I think the only thing that there's just kind of like okay about this, and once again, it's not necessarily bad news. It's just kind of like they just threw it out there.
Right, yeah.
And as you'll see with the next few films here, I think that it's not necessarily that things are going wrong with the projects. It's just that like they're just randomly throwing properties out there and they're just trying to see what sticks.
Okay.
So, I mean, and that's just my interpretation from it. I'm very much excited for this film. And I actually think this is the one that shows the most promise out of any of these that have been announced.
Wow.
I think this is the one I'm probably most excited for at the moment. So moving on to the next one in kind of a similar situation. So with Harley Quinn being obviously one of the few redeemable aspects of Suicide Squad, Warner Brothers and David Ayer announced in December of 2016 that a film surrounding Harley Quinn and some of DC's deadliest female villains is in development and will be titled Gotham City Sirens. This, I don't know how to take this. I'm not excited for this project. I feel like this is one of those instances where it's just like, oh, Harley Quinn was popular in Suicide Squad? Cool. Let's make a movie surrounding her. That's going back to being reactive
But they announced that Harley Quinn... But first of all, That's happened a lot. That even happens in Marvel, where it's sort of like, oh,
Does it?
Ant-Man was popular. Ant-Man and Wasp is a movie now.
Yeah, but that's a sequel.
Iron
though.
Man was popular. Iron Man 2 is a movie now. In Phase 1.
But it's a different situation because
that's a
that
different situation.
these are
Those weren't planned movies. Those are just movies that they came out. They decided on greenlighting because they were popular. You know what I mean?
But that's because the movie was good.
But Holly, yeah. But,
this is taking a character that was successful in a film.
Gotham City Sirens
not
is
successful.
essentially a Suicide Squad sequel.
But it's not, though.
It is, though. It's same director. Harley Quinn's in it. It's a villain's movie. It's a spiritual successor, at the very least. I feel like that's a natural progression. Instead of just doing Suicide Squad 2 and just doing a new cast of characters and then going on another mission.
They don't have to do a new cast of characters. They can keep
the
same
cast.
characters.
I mean,
just make a better movie.
Rather than doing that, I feel like this is a natural... And giving Suicide Squad some time... Because you're right, it wasn't critically popular.
No.
It was very financially successful, but it wasn't critically a hit. So I think taking a break from that particular IP is smart in business sense. But
this to me it sounds like another Gotham thing. Which if you're a fan of Gotham, that's great. I think the show has gotten progressively better, especially with what's happening with the Joker. Yeah. I'm still not a huge fan of it, but this seems like another one of those things like with Gotham. It's like they're trying to play in the Batman universe without using Batman and stuff like that.
But the comics are kind of like that too.
And I get that. Believe me, I'm just curious as to why they're trying to push this out now instead of maybe a little bit later down the road once we've finally gotten our main heroes, our Aquaman, which I know that's coming out, our Shazam, Green Lantern, Flash. Why aren't they focusing on those first?
Do we know when that movie's coming out though? Sirens?
I don't remember, but I know it's sooner than some of the bigger names on there.
Okay.
So that's just I don't understand necessarily why that's being kind of pushed in the forefront. And like I get it. Harley Quinn's incredibly popular. If Harley Quinn's going to be in the movie, that means we're probably going to get Joker. I mean, the concept is interesting enough. I'm not crazy about it, to be honest with you. So,
but you probably weren't going to be crazy if they announced Guardians of the Galaxy. You weren't going to be crazy about that.
No.
Until you saw it, and you said, okay.
Well, see, but I almost compare that to Suicide Squad, except Suicide Squad was bad. Guardians of the Galaxy.
But Suicide Squad was like, I don't know. I feel like there was a lot more hype.
They were trying to make their own version of Guardians of the Galaxy.
But I think there was a lot more like it was less out of left field because it's the Joker and Harley Quinn and
right.
Batman was gonna have a cameo. Like that felt a lot more sort of like that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, the Joker.
Yeah, I guess so.
With the Joker. Whereas this one feels like, wow, who even are the Gotham City Sirens? Like a really obscure title.
That's what I'm saying. This one just seems like it just came out of left field, and they're trying to just like.
But that might not be a bad thing. I don't know if it's a bad thing.
Maybe not. I mean, we'll see. I mean, if the movie's good, then it's good, and I'll eat my words. I don't really care. It's just like it just seems very just like sporadic. It's just like, oh, Gotham City Sirens. It's like
fair enough.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
I get you.
It's just another example of why I feel like they don't have a direction of where stuff is going with this movie. But regardless, I mean, that it's happening, so whatever. So moving on to the next one, and once again, this is similar to Green Lantern, where this isn't necessarily bad news. It's just kind of like throwing shit out there. So it's been long confirmed, obviously, that The Rock will be playing Black Adam. I think this is the longest like a dude has been confirmed to play a character without being in the movie, like ever.
Yeah, seriously.
But like. Anyway, so he's supposed to be playing Black Adam in a DCEU film or several films, who knows. And in January of 2017, a lot of stuff was announced this past month. It was announced that a Shazam / Black Adam movie will be coming in technically 2 parts. It'll be 2 different films. The first film will be focusing more on Black Adam and his origins and stuff like that. And part 2 will primarily deal with, Shazam and I guess him battling Black Adam and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So this has actually been something that I've wanted to see for a while because I think The Rock is pitch perfect casting for Black Adam, and Shazam's actually a pretty interesting hero. It's just kind of like this thing has been sitting in limbo for so long that it's just kind of like, oh, well, here we're doing it now because sure we can. It's another instance of just like. Why, like what's going on here? It's just sporadic information or movie announcements that are kind of happening now. Yeah, I'm excited for it because I think the property lends itself well towards stuff, and I think that The Rock is going to kill it in this role. I'm really curious to see who they cast as Shazam, but it's just I don't know. There doesn't seem to be a reason or rhythm or as to why this stuff is kind of being announced. And I mean, I guess you can say the same about Marvel in some regards. Like Spider-Man was definitely got great reception in Civil War, so he got his own movie.
Right.
But that it almost seemed like that was destined to happen because once they got the rights to Spider-Man,
they wrote him into Civil War really randomly. They had 2 versions of the script, and they were going to work him in. And he was
right.
I loved Spider-Man in that movie.
Yeah,
he was crammed in.
I don't think he was crammed in.
Tony Stark shows up at his house. He's in one fight, and then he's just not in the movie anymore. I think that's really, really weird. I don't know. I think Black Panther made a lot of sense in the movie.
Yeah, he had more of a connection. Well, you could say the same thing about like Ant-Man and the rest of those characters. They were kind of thrown in.
But they existed already. They were already in the toolbox. You could pull them out at any time. Spider-Man was like they invented him and then put him in the toolbox.
But I think,
and then pulled him out.
I think it's Civil War. But they were saying was like this guy. I mean, obviously, it was kind of trying to test the waters to see if they want.
Yeah, I know why
agree
they
with
did
that,
it,
but
and I did really like the way they did Spider-Man, and I don't think it detracted from the movie, but it was really random. Spider-Man could have been cut completely from the movie, and the Civil War is exactly the same. The arcs of all the characters is exactly the same. Everything is exactly the same. I just think Spider-Man was inconsequential and very obviously put in because they got the rights, and that's not a bad thing.
Right,
it's just what
they
did.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. But I think they had a movie planned regardless of whether he was going to be in Civil War or not. So that doesn't come as that much of a surprise. But some of this other, I mean, well, actually, what are your thoughts on Shazam before we kind of wrap this
Shazam?
up?
I don't know what they're gonna do. I'm always opposed when they make villain movies.
Yeah.
Black Adam's not really a villain, so I don't know. I could see it. But,
yeah, that's once again, they're making. I mean, I get it. It's one part to the Shazam story, but like. Mm-hmm. A villain movie on like Black Adam, it's like, is there enough there?
I mean, there's plenty there. He's a very interesting character, and he's not really a villain,
right?
But so I could see, I can see why they would want to, and I can if they have an idea, if you have The Rock, then obviously
use him.
Yeah, go ahead, make him the star, like absolutely. But I mean, it's not something I would have anticipated, but I'm not unhappy with it.
No, I'm not unhappy too. Yeah, it's just.
I'm at a point where I'm like, I'm just not going to demand anything from like, because I don't see any point in saying like they should make this movie before this movie or this movie. I used to be like that, and it's sort of like, what's the point?
That's a fair statement.
If they obviously are the ones making the films, and if that's what they choose to make, because maybe someone had an idea, The Rock maybe pitched them something, or someone pitched them something. Then sure, let's just see what they got. I mean, let's just use this universe that we've got and see what we come up with, rather than. Anyway, yeah, you finish your point, and then I've got another point I'm really dying to get to.
That's fine. I agree with you. I guess it doesn't really matter what comes first, but it just kind of seems like they're just announcing random movies like every other week or something like that. Just like, sure, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening.
Right.
Whereas I think that like, and I could be completely wrong. I don't know. It's giving off the vibe that they're just shotgunning, and they're just like, whatever hits, let's go in that direction.
Right. But I don't see that as a problem. And I think we were talking about this earlier.
You view the cinematic universes in a different way than I do, because I think that. Yeah. And I'm not saying that Marvel is doing it the perfect way, but it seems to be working for them.
Marvel's doing it very effectively.
Yeah,
and
they have
absolutely.
And I think it's something that I think a lot of things or some studios maybe should just take note of is they seem to have a plan, a clear set plan moving forward with their universe.
Yeah.
And I just don't get that vibe from DC and Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be completely wrong. I don't know, but it's something. It's why people are having a hard time trusting what these announcements or stuff like that. It's kind of like, oh, so now we're getting Gotham City Sirens. Okay, and next week, we're getting Shazam. Oh, Green Lantern Corp.
Right.
There's no rhyme or reason as to why it seems to be happening.
Right, and I understand why that might be concerning, but I don't think. First of all, and I think I was texting you about this.
Yeah,
I think Marvel has completely bastardized the way that a franchise is supposed to work, and that's not a slight against Marvel,
right?
Because it's worked for them and good for them because they are making serviceable movies and they are making a lot of money.
Yeah,
so happy days for them.
Before you continue, I want to preface this by saying I'm not a Marvel fanboy. and he's not like a solely DC fan.
I love Marvel too.
We
Oh,
want
yeah.
these films to succeed.
Right.
These
Exactly.
are just kind of like our
Exactly.
viewpoints on what's going on here.
I'm talking about from a business perspective here. I'm not
Yeah,
talking about
yeah.
like Marvel made this. I have opinions
right.
on the Marvel movies themselves, but in terms of business, I think what Marvel has done to franchises has sort of you know that like that old, not really old, but you know that idea that people would mock Hollywood movies because they're all the same, they're cookie cutters made by committee, all this sort of stuff, and that wasn't always true. Hollywood movies do have their moments where they flourish with an originality, or they let a director do their own thing, or a writer do their own thing.
Yeah.
That's been a fabric of Hollywood filmmaking for a long time, and it's a bit of a stereotype that there's no real creative vision in Hollywood. But I feel like Marvel has made that stereotype a little more real with their cinematic universe formula, and while it has worked for them, it has had a really bad effect on everyone else. Because everyone thinks we have to plan an entire franchise by the time the first movie comes out.
Well, no one's saying you have to plan an entire franchise, but they have.
But that's the expectation at this point. It's like
I don't-
DC made Batman vs Superman without knowing what the next two movies were going to be. And it's like, so what? Even just like superhero stuff. Like I'm trying to think of something else. Like the fucking Mummy movie thing. It's like, do they know where they're going next?
Well, they actually do.
They actually do because it's like mandatory now that you know where you're going with something.
But I don't think it's
Fast and the Furious has 3 more sequels planned. Like all this sort of stuff. It's like, why?
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying in that respect. I
don't see how that's necessary. I feel like when I think of
it's not.
Yeah,
I'm saying it's not necessary, but it's kind of like if you start something and you don't know where it's going to end, it feels like you're just going to be throwing stuff out there randomly without any sort of direction.
But that's kind of what sequels are. Like that's kind of like how sequels have been forever. Like, I mean,
maybe for some films that are like really big hits and people are like, oh, well, we should make a sequel to that. But when I think that happens, when that happens, I think that when they've made the sequel, they have also planned out what direction they want to go with these films if they're going to make more than one sequel.
Right. But I don't know about that because I feel like let's just look at Pirates of the Caribbean. First one, massive success. Okay, let's make a sequel. They make a sequel, and the reason the sequel, I don't think the third one was as good as the first two, mainly the first one, is because they said, well, we've got to make this a 2-parter now, so we can make a third.
Well, I don't think that was like
planning ahead made the third one and part of the second one less satisfying. I think when you've got this massive idea for a massive, I'll start again. If you have a massive overarching story, like a trilogy, like Back to the Future or something, it makes sense to plan your sequels ahead because it is part of the same story and it needs to be cohesive and it needs to make sense as a narrative on its own and also as a 3-part story. That in that context it makes sense. But with something like the DC universe or the Marvel universe, sure they're building to something, but it's not an overarching story. There's no character arc that stretches the 10 films, or there's no
several characters
subplot that is stretching. They're just throwing little Easter eggs to this Thanos thing. That's not really tied into the plot at all. It's just sort of like they can now foreshadow future events because they know what's going to happen next. It's not necessarily integral to the story, the plot. Whereas something like Back to the Future or I was saying Star Wars wasn't really 100% set in stone when they started making it. When George started making it, I feel like it's still an overarching story, so it made sense to plan ahead a little bit. But with something like, I don't know, unless these are direct sequels to one another that add to a larger narrative, directly to a larger narrative, I don't see the point in having to plan ahead so meticulously. I think it's part of the creativity of filmmaking is that you get to be organic and say, okay, I liked how that worked in that film. How about we extrapolate on that point? Or, Harley Quinn was a really interesting character and she was well received. Let's explore that. Let's go. Let's get the creative juices going. Let's say, okay, what can we do with Harley Quinn now? Where can we take this character? I think that's more interesting than saying, well, Harley Quinn's in 5 films needs to be at this point. So how can we get her from point A to point B in the most streamlined fashion that can make the most money, which I kind of think was what Marvel does to an extent. I don't know about that. I think Marvel does that to an extent where they sort of think they already know, like, let's just say Captain America has to die by this, like by Infinity War, or he's going to die in Infinity War. How do we get him from point A to point B? Well, we can.
They would obviously have it planned out in advance,
right? They're planning it. That's what I'm saying. They're planning it out.
See, but I don't understand what's wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. I just don't think it's. I don't think it's gospel. I don't think you don't have. I don't think you have to do that.
No, I mean, it's filmmaking. You can do whatever you want, but right, I think when you have a direction of where you're going, I mean, let's look at these cinematic universes like we're looking at TV series. Are you going to want to watch a TV series that is like has no idea where it's going and is like completely off the rails from like season to season? Or are you going to want to watch a TV series?
I watch shows like that, yeah.
So you would rather watch that than a TV series?
No, I wouldn't rather.
That has been planned out for like say 5 seasons, like or 7 seasons. Take Game of Thrones for example. It knows exactly where it's going. It knows how it's going
based
to
on
end.
Source material though,
correct, but regardless, okay, let's take Westworld, for example. It just finished its first season. Yeah. They have 5 seasons planned out for the story. They know exactly where the characters are going, how we're going to get there.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying I have a problem with planning ahead.
You're just saying that there's different ways to do it.
I just think there's plenty of different ways to do it, and I think something like Westworld is an overarching story. Something like Breaking Bad is an overarching story.
Well, I'm just using them as examples.
I know you are, but I think when it comes to when you have a larger narrative that you're telling through multiple different narratives, like a series, like a TV show, or like a franchise trilogy or something, I think it is somewhat important to have an idea where you're going. Maybe you don't know every single pothole in the road, but you know the end game.
See, and while I agree with you, I don't get that sense from DC.
But I think DC's a different. I think DC and Marvel. I don't think Marvel needs to be meticulously planned. If it is, and that works for them, that's fine. But I don't think it needs to be.
Well,
for the type of stories they're telling, I don't think it is necessary for them to be so thoroughly planned. It's not like I wouldn't compare the narrative arc of the Marvel Universe to something like Breaking Bad, where Breaking Bad is so infinitely complex in the way its characters do things in order to get where the story is taking them.
Yeah.
Marvel's just sort of like, okay, in this movie, Iron Man fights the Mandarin, but it's not really the Mandarin. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like these are just self-contained stories that have Easter eggs to the next story or to a larger like event film later on. Kind of like comic books, because comic books are written like this as well. It's very sort of like one writer will have a certain arc that they'll cover. We'll say like a 6-issue arc or a 12-issue arc is a film, a single film. They have control over that, but they don't know where the character's going next in the next writer's arc. They might get the publisher might say, DC might say, we really like what you did with Batman in this arc. Would you come back and do the next one? And I think that's kind of how the films. That's kind of how I feel. I'm losing my tongue here. That's kind of how I feel DC is treating their films. It's sort of like Zack Snyder. We liked what you did with Man of Steel. Let's do Batman vs Superman. They clearly liked what they did with Batman vs Superman, whether or not it was critically received or not. They said, "Let's see what you can do with Justice League."
See, I actually think that going from Man of Steel to Batman v Superman, would I have liked another film in there to develop Superman a little bit? Sure, I'm sure a lot of people would, but I think as far as cinematic universes go and like continuity and themes and stuff like that, I think that was a good move. That made sense chronologically in a universe perspective, and it seemed like they had it planned out. I guess really just my only point is you're right. People there are different ways of doing things, and I'm sure DC has their way, Marvel has their way. No way is the right way. It's just that it seems to be working for one studio, and DC is still figuring their stuff out.
Right. Yeah.
And that's really the thing that I wanted to get at from this stuff is, and I know I've said this a million times, but maybe this is a PR thing, maybe it's not, but they need to convince people that they know where they're going, they have a direction,
right,
and all that stuff. But
I think with
go
ahead, yeah.
Or I was just gonna say real quick, but on the flip side of that, we have a film like Aquaman. Everything seems to be going right for this film. James Wan is the time of his life making this movie.
Yeah.
Jason Momoa having a great time. I mean, they just cast Black Mantis. They're looking at Nicole Kidman to play Aquaman's mom. I mean, all this stuff. Everything is going right for this movie, and I couldn't be happier. I think this is great news in this kind of wishy-washiness of the DC cinematic universe. But that's all I have to say about that. I'll let you get the last thought on this before we move on to our last section here.
I was just gonna say, I think the PR problem that they're having is more so, and I don't know if I can pinpoint this exactly, but it's either DC is trying too hard to balance the Marvel way of doing it with like the massive plans. If they're trying too hard to balance that with their old style of franchise building, and it's not meshing, or we as an audience are imposing this Marvel mentality on every bit of news we hear from them.
If it might be a little bit of both, to be honest.
Probably a little bit of both. I think DC needs to come out and just say, you know what? We're not going to plan every film 15 films in advance. That's just not how Warner Brothers is operated as a studio. That's not how we want to make. That's not how DC Comics operates as a comic book publisher.
Right.
We're just going to do this our way.
Yeah.
We're going to make films as we feel like it. It's going to build to something.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
We're going to do it as organically as possible. I also think the second issue is the reason when these directors are leaving with creative differences is because I think the studio does have somewhat of an outline for what they want these, not necessarily the overarching story to be, but they have an outline for what they want each character to be.
Well, then I think the problem
I think they've told the directors you have free reign, and then when the directors try to exercise their free reign, the studio says no, it's not actually what we want.
See, and then
so I think there's a miscommunication between the studio and the directors.
Yes, I agree, and I think and that's a problem.
Absolutely, and they need to address that. DC is not without fault. I'm not saying that without fault. I just don't think it's dire. I just think they need to reassess and be more confident in what they're doing themselves instead of trying to look at like what Marvel's doing and say you need to do that, because they don't need to do it.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think what DC needs to do from now on is they need to be upfront with what their expectations are from the directors. Be like, listen, if you want to direct this film, this is where we're heading with our franchise. Craft your story around that. It needs to have these elements in it. Go ahead and do it. I think they just need to be more upfront about what they want, and I think that's kind of an issue here. All right, so that was a long time discussing the DC cinematic universe, but I think we got some good stuff in there. So what are your opinions on the DC cinematic universe? You can let us know in the comment section below. So before we finish the show out,
with your hate in the comments,
they'll probably be hating on me, calling me a fanboy or whatever. Marvel fanboy.
They'll be both sides.
Probably. So before we finish out the show, obviously, the Batman is without its director right now, which is the main reason we're having this conversation. So we thought the best way to end the show would be who should direct the Batman and who's going to be the best choice. So you have a list of people.
Yep.
I have a list of people. I'm going to let you go first, and then we can kind of
mine's a very small list. I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I got a few names on here, but there's really only a few that I really would like.
Yeah, there's a few people that I've tried to balance my list between probable people and people I'd like. There's only 3 people on my list, just FYI.
Go for it. That's fine. That's fine.
I think there are some people that I think are probably more likely than this third person I'm going to mention.
Yeah.
But I think they have the spirit for it. And that's, I was mentioning before, Darren Aronofsky.
Darren Aronofsky, I think is great. Yeah.
I think he's, first of all, got a passion for it. And like I said, he's got a hunger to make these superhero movies.
He was supposed to do Batman Year One. He wanted to do the Wolverine, all that stuff. Yeah.
So I think he really has a investment in this kind of franchise, which I think makes it more likely.
Yeah.
And also I just think aesthetically a good pick for Batman.
No, true. I mean, look, watch Black Swan. It's a creepy movie.
The dude knows dark. And I think the problem, even I remember hearing that his vision for Year One was too dark.
Yeah, I remember hearing that too. Yeah,
which I don't think is going to be a problem anymore.
No way. No way.
I could see that working out really well.
Yeah.
And then my second pick is probably the most likely on the list, and that is just Zack Snyder. I think
Zack Snyder's on the list too.
I think Zack Snyder's a good director. I actually really enjoy Zack Snyder.
I do. I think he's a visionary. He's a visionary in the field. He does struggle sometimes with narratives, but I almost think that sometimes people are a little too harsh on him.
I think so. Yeah, I think people. It's not like he writes his movies like these, and he hasn't written any of these DC movies yet.
No.
So I think he'd be great for Batman. He Batman
totally
was the best part.
He nailed the character in the film.
Yeah. He was great. He knew because Batman is he's such a larger than life character.
Right.
He relies. It's not just the actor playing it. It's the director as well. The director
Yes.
has to set the mood, and he set the mood for Batman. Perfect.
Oh my God!
Great.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be great. I think if instead of doing the next Superman movie, they just got him to do Batman instead.
Yeah.
That seems to be where his skill set is most universally acceptable to apply. Because some people don't like his take on Superman. Why not just, if you want to keep him around and get him to utilize his skills, get him to do Batman.
Yeah, I mean, I know Zack Snyder's on my list too, so I'll just talk about him real quick. I agree with you. I think, there's been a lot of memes like saying like, oh, Zack Snyder's waiting for his call and stuff like that. As crazy as it sounds, it's really not that bad of an idea.
No,
I think
really
the
not.
only reason they wouldn't go with him is because he spent maybe a little too much time in this universe. People might lose their shit if he's decided as the director, and maybe Warner Brothers might be trying to avoid another PR fire. Who knows? If I was Warner Brothers, I'd just say, fuck everyone. Let's just do it. If we need Zack Snyder, we need Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
I think you're dead right. He knows Batman. He clearly knows the tone for Batman. He knows how to set this the Batman side of this universe up. It was basically pitch perfect in Batman v Superman. Yeah. Really, really was the Batman side of it. So I'd be curious to see what happened. I think the film would be a damn nightmare. It would be a horror film. I don't mean in a bad way. I mean, I think the movie would be it's so dark, it's so gritty. I would totally be cool with Zack Snyder doing this.
He has
film.
a nice noir kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So that'd be kind of cool. Like I like Watchmen kind of. That'd be nice.
Watchmen meets 300.
Batman just
might be a little too
maybe
far.
Bane's kicking people off roofs or something, and it's just like they need to go take him down.
Yeah. All right. What's your final choice?
And my final pick is, I think, also on your list.
It is. Yeah, we'll talk about
David Fincher.
I
think maybe not likely, just because I think he has an aversion to making.
I think Alien
studio
3
films.
kind of scared him off from big
Alien
budget
3
films.
ruined him for big budget films. But he's worked with Ben Affleck before to great success.
Yeah.
Aesthetically perfect. Oh my God.
I'd say even more so than Zack Snyder.
More so than Zack Snyder by far. I think of all directors working right now, Ben Affleck had a good aesthetic for it. So does David Fincher.
Fincher, yeah.
Oh, that would be a phenomenal movie. And he makes a
dream
great film.
come true, really, yeah.
Yeah, he makes a great film. So, I mean, I don't see it happening, but at the same time, I think maybe if anyone had a chance of convincing him, Ben Affleck.
Maybe.
I think Ben Affleck had a decent working relationship with him in Gone Girl.
Yeah, I agree.
They both achieved success with that film. I think that would be at least something on the table to negotiate with. But that's just my opinion. Who knows?
No, I think you're dead on. I mean, just look at all of his films. Really, they have that kind of like eerie aesthetic to it. He knows how to do noir well.
Noir,
I mean, just watch Zodiac. Honestly, I think he can bring horror elements to it as well, even though that's not entirely his style, but I think he could bring them to it. Storytelling, he's a master at it. I would be really happy if they went this way. I agree with you though. Don't think it's likely. No. So my picks, I've got a few here. George Miller, I know he's been thrown out a lot. I'd be really curious to see what he would do with a Batman film, because he can do intense action. We know this guy from Mad Max. He could do action great. No doubt in my mind that he would be able to do the fight scenes well. He was already being looked at to do the Justice League film. I know he was being looked at to do maybe a Superman movie and stuff like that. I think George Miller, it would be interesting to see what he would do.
It would be interesting, yeah.
Once again, I don't think they will go with him. If he's going to do a movie, I think it'll be maybe a Man of Steel 2, maybe a Justice League 2, something like that.
Maybe Zack Snyder's doing Batman.
Yeah, while I would like to see George Miller do a DC movie, I don't think this will be this will be the one. But it's something to be cool.
If George Miller did Batman, it'd be a little more gothic, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be really cool. And I think actually the thing he would do really well is bringing out the eccentricity of the villains. Yeah, because we see that in Mad Max a little bit. So it'd be nice to see. My next pick is one that's been heavily rumored. Matt Reeves. Yeah, just look at the Apes films, or Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Really, I mean, the guy. Oh God, he's a great director, and he has experience stepping into franchises that he didn't start before
and making them better.
Yeah, I mean, we got this year's War of the Planet of the Apes. So if that one's a big hit, then and if he's announced as the director for the Batman, I'll be 100% on board.
Who makes the Apes films? Is that Warner Brothers? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
No. I'm sorry. That's Fox. It's Fox.
Is it Fox? Okay. Yeah. I actually think you're right.
Yeah. So I think Matt Reeves would be a great pick. How he works with Ben Affleck, yet to be seen, because I don't think he's worked with him before. So that'd be interesting. Now I got 2 here, and I thought about this. That it's really interesting.
I don't think I know these ones.
You don't. I guarantee you don't. Ooh. So Batman is very much a demonic, nightmarish superhero. So why not get a fucking horror director to direct a Batman film? So I got 2 picks here. One is already in DC's good graces, and that's James Wan.
Okay.
Get James Wan hot off of Aquaman to do the freaking Batman movie.
Man.
I think that'd be great.
In what kind of a world do we live that we're saying, if he can do Aquaman, then maybe he can do something with Batman? Like,
I know.
In what world is that a sentence?
Oh my
That's
God.
Incredible.
I'm telling you, man. James Wan, you just look at The Conjuring. Just look at, he produced Lights Out and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, this guy has the skills to make a creepy, scary Batman movie.
And hopefully with Aquaman, we can see he can also do other stuff.
Yeah. So, well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, and once again, he's in DC and Warner Brothers, good graces. He's a great working relationship with them. So it'd be interesting. And then my last pick here is actually one that I had heard floating around a little bit, and I was like, that would be freaking cool.
Yeah.
Fede Alvarez.
Oh,
Fede Alvarez.
Interesting.
Who did Don't Breathe. He did the Evil Dead remake. This is a guy who understands suspense, as evident by Don't Breathe, and he can do horror as well.
Yeah.
I think this guy would be a seriously impressive pick. He's not huge, which is good, because I don't think you need the biggest director. You need someone that understands the material well and who's going to make a good movie.
Yeah.
And I think with his horror background, he'd be able to give us something that is just like dark Batman, somewhere where we haven't gone before. So I'd be really curious to see what he would bring to the table.
When you said Fede Alvarez, I think Sam.
I toyed around with Sam Raimi, but we've already seen what he can do with superheroes in Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't want that kind of that would almost be bringing it back to the Tim Burton Batman films, and I don't think that's where this universe is going.
I like the Tim Burton Batman.
No, I do too. I mean, I like Batman. I don't like Batman Returns.
You've actually like piqued my interest on the Sam Raimi thing just by saying that.
Sam Raimi.
It unintentionally piqued my interest.
You know, maybe Sam Raimi, but I think more so Fede Alvarez, just because of his recent accomplishments with Don't Breathe and the Evil Dead remake. So those are my choices. What are your picks to direct the Batman? Leave them in the comments section below. Any closing thoughts before we close out the show?
I think I've said most of what I wanted to say.
I've
got a lot of strong opinions on this.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have a lot of strong opinions on this topic. Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate that something like this has happened where Ben Affleck had to depart the film, but I think they'll be able to bounce back from it. I just want them to have a direction with their universe. Okay. So that's going to be it for this first installment of the new form of our talk show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully we gave some nice insight into what we're feeling, how we're feeling. If you have an opinion on this topic or any of the things we discussed, definitely leave them in the comment section below. We'd love to debate with you, talk about it with you, and all that good stuff. And then while you're down there, why don't you hit that subscribe button, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just do it. We got reviews. We post, or at least try to post weekly. I know we haven't posted one in a little while, but yeah, sorry about that. And then we also do this. We're going to be doing this talk show weekly, new topics. We don't know what the topic for next week's going to be, but it's going to be good. Yeah. So
you might say we don't have a direction.
We don't have a direction.
We haven't planned out the next 5 episodes.
Look at me. I'm being a hypocrite. No, I'm kidding. And then also be sure to head on over to menversusmovies.com because we're starting putting written content there. We've got articles, editorials. There's been a few editorials that we've had some people post regarding the Batman and all that stuff. We have TV reviews, trailer reviews, all that stuff.
The Batman.
That's the way we have to say it.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
It has to be. So yeah, go check out our website. It's good. It's good stuff. We got good stuff. And then also be sure to like Men vs. Movies on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter simply by searching Men v Movies. Brody, I'm going to let you plug yourself. Where are we going to find you today, sir?
Well, you like I say always, you can find me on Twitter because I am on Twitter at @bceravelli.
You really can't, though.
But I'm never on there, so you really can't. If you'd like to hear what I'm actually thinking, please check out benaffleck.com because I am now filling in for Ben Affleck's agent, and I'm basically just making all the decisions for his career from now on.
Brilliant move. There we go. All right, and if you like what I email. And if you like what I have to say, you can always give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right, that does it for this installment of the show. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Check you guys next week and take care.